Welcome back to the Meebits Podcast. I'm very excited to be here today with Tomasz Stanczak, Co-Executive Director of the Ethereum Foundation. Tomasz, what an honor for you to spend some of your busy day with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
This is really exciting for us because as we've discussed, prior to recording this, for us, the class of 2021, the JPEG class of 2021, we feel like we're like some of the first retail users, consumers that came onto Ethereum, not really, chasing the technology per se, or even digging at the protocol level, but most just to use Ethereum as a way to secure like art and artifacts and our call it digital toys that we play with. So yeah, we just wanted to quickly chat with you today about how the EF is changing under your guidance, the new team, and what's getting you excited about the future of Ethereum, not just in the medium term, but also for the long term.
Sure, yeah. It's I think there are so many aspects of Ethereum that are always worth to explore. I think that when the first time you've seen a bit of NFT craze coming back, as when I was starting, there was a bit of CryptoKitties, and then everything died, and I thought like, oh right, okay, that was interesting concept, but it seems that it didn't pick up, and then you suddenly had that explosion of interest, and it just opened totally new thing. And now bringing all of those memories and understanding that sometimes you have something big, then it disappears, and it comes back again, and then it has to reinvent itself. It drives the way how I think that foundation thinks about coordination, about consistently looking for that invention of people that want to build something new on chain, that want to explore and feel the excitement of novelty. And even now, when we think it's the next 10 years of Ethereum, we're celebrating the first 10 years, we start to think what the next 10 years means. This is a question about where the excitement will be, how we can start combining the ideas of NFTs and maybe AI, Gen AI and NFTs, or new metaverses, or looking at how DeFi evolved with the NFT concepts. All of that synergizes, and I think that was always beauty of Ethereum, that we knew that these are building blocks that we can combine together, that we can explore, that we experiment with the old ideas and make them new.
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember when I came to Ethereum, it was money Legos. That was a story that kind of attracted me. I fell into CryptoPunks early on. Well, for my crypto career, it was pretty late already, 4 years in. It was in 21. But for me, it's like culture Lego blocks now that the NFT communities and the NFT projects are building. And obviously very different from, I guess a lot of what the EF has done so far in its first, call it 10 years. Could you speak really quickly as to what the main difference is from like EF 1.0 to the EF 2.0 that you're now co-heading?
Yeah, I keep trying to convince people that really there's no transition in the EF as much as the surrounding, the entire environment of the EF changes, and it was demanding some kind of a change. But I think that the EF, the leadership, was already executing many of the things that now are seen as transformational. And one of those was just bringing the new leadership, executive directors, myself and Shoei. But I think that both Vitalik and I were initiating many of the changes that are sometimes just some assigned to us as like, oh, this is our achievement. They were happening, and it's just offloading their thinking as the leaders, the ones that guide the values, the ones that really guided Ethereum through the last 10 years. And what I think we want to change in the visibility, and maybe that's coming specifically with the leadership, is more communication. A situation like this, like being very open to have conversations with everyone in the community, hearing questions happily, whether they're difficult, surprising, maybe some questions are showing that we don't understand and we don't feel everything in the community. And this allows us to start thinking, okay, we need to do more. We need to look at that part of Ethereum. And it's vast. There's so many different ideas. So communicating more, both internally and externally. And this by itself changes a lot, changes perception. You go to You go to Twitter, you go to Forecaster, you go to forums, you don't hide, you go to podcasts, you go to events, and people come and ask questions. And sometimes it's just a very simple conversation, like people want to share what they think. Because then they start to feel that they actually create a strategy of Ethereum. And it's true. I think it's true because every single conversation stays with you and you start aggregating it. Sometimes there are some very novel, insightful comments from people who just joined the ecosystem and who think that they ask a question, but they really ask a question that was never asked before. And they have that novelty in them that allows for us to think about everything a new way.
Yeah, no, you can definitely see how at least that transparency has changed recently with the new team or with the upgraded team. Obviously, just this conversation, it's not something that I would have imagined now running an NFT project in the Meebits, but just kind of like being part of the NFT community itself, having the time to just pick your brain about Ethereum and what you're excited about. I feel like one of the big storylines last year was, other chains that are more centralized in a bit had a better kind of like 15-second elevator pitch. It was like a really easy narrative because they knew who the heads were. It was really easy to tell their story. As you're looking to kind of like revamp a little bit of the way people see Ethereum from the outside, what would you say is that like 15-second elevator pitch for Ethereum?
Yeah, sure. Now, when we see Ethereum, we see this global neutral layer for everyone bringing the global economy on chain. We see it starting with stable coins, but we know that everything will move on chain on Ethereum, and will allow everyone to permissionlessly connect and have all those Ethereum values benefiting the users that connect. So they will feel that there is security, there's censorship resistance. They can execute all their trades. They can automate the world. They can automate the economy and be in control. That their privacy will be preserved and that everything will be open source so we can build the world together. And then Ethereum delivers all the resources needed. So it's a world computer. It will have compute. It will have energy. It will have all the answers also to the worries of nowadays. So what happens with AI when it's unchecked? I think that many questions about AI verifiability come with Ethereum. So that's what we're building for the next 10 years. We address the fears and we continue building visions and dreams of a global borderless economy.
How much of your background experience, and we only have a short time because you're very busy today, which I appreciate the time. So if anybody wants to really listen to Tomasz's background, you can do so in DeFi Dad's podcast, where you go into depth as to how you came to Ethereum in 2015, 2016, short ditched, you were doing meetups, and then started building. So you're a builder, you've been an MEV, kind of just really driving that. How does all that, how are you relying on that while also keeping your eyes and ears open for NFTs, culture, AI, and all the stuff that's coming on chain over the next few years?
Sure, this is a lot of reading, lots of conversations. I think lots of experimentation as well. Sometimes you have to push yourself. So I've worked a lot on the infrastructure side and core development, on the business side, business building. And then I thought, for a while, I forgot how it is to really on-ramp on Ethereum and push $100 to Ethereum and start playing with it. I did go for a few experiments like this recently to think how it would be to start from zero, and I felt a lot of pain that users are feeling with the UX. Sometimes I felt it's even worse than 2017 because the global regulators introduced all the changes that forced this very strange state of on one side, there's massive adoption. On the other side, there are things that show that there was not much understanding of how it should look in the future. So when you execute all of this and then play also with DeFi, with NFTs, in the past it was we were buying this currency NFT, the famous one. I was playing with various NFT games, and then I had calls with IP creators, and I understood really what it means to manage the IP. And I thought, wow, okay, this is amazing thing of designing it as you create a storytelling, you think how you embed it into various aspects and convert it into something monetizable, but also something that binds people for the culture and storytelling. When I was at Flashbots, when Flashbots was experimenting with the teleport in Azuki, and then had a pleasure to talk to the Azuki team and lots of other things. And so just always experimenting, being open, the things that sometimes feel like, oh, this is not my thing, this is not my thing. But then you think like, yeah, all right, but if you understand it, then suddenly you realize you understand that fun, because very often we have these communities that understand it from the outside. It feels strange, but they simply have fun internally, and that drives a lot of innovation, because when people have fun, then they explore and start building just for themselves.
Yeah, that's something that I think we really pride ourselves into within the NFT community. I'm sure well aware, right? NFT companies have developed L2s, they've developed new token standards, new mechanisms. They're really putting Ethereum on like regular people's hands, which obviously everybody wants the institutions, but personally I think those retail people that were the distribution endpoints for onboarding the more traditional users that we're all trying to bring Ethereum to. How do you, I guess, weight retail usage versus traditional institutional usage?
So many times in the past, I was thinking that it will be very hard to have Ethereum to be used directly by retail, that there will always be some wrapper, some institutional wrapper around it. And that's why I thought it was so important to bring institutions on chain and to push for that institutional adoption. And then I feel that Ethereum has that property that it will just very naturally cause all of those institutions and governance mechanisms to just melt into the network, to start disappearing, because they'll be modularized and multiplied into many different fork forms of the solutions that people will be picking to build their blocks into whatever they want to construct. Then separately, I realized that AI is coming on the UX side, and we'll see probably lots of representation through agents to the chain. And then it means that there is much more space for users, retail, directly using AI to explain and verify the chain. And this is super powerful. Because in the past, it's thought nobody will ever be able to verify the chain. You always have maybe a block explorer, maybe something remote, an RPC calls, maybe a wallet that is really indexing somewhere there. But it was so hard to run it on your machine. You can do it, but then combined with the AI tools that tell you the story using those tools, I think this will be transformational. And it's happening there, but it's happening slowly. So yeah, retail will be important, and I think retail will be just realizing that it onboards, like that people want to onboard it by the institutions, and they'll feel, since I'm already using all of this, it's such an easy journey to the permissionless space. It should be easy, and I hope that we'll just make it very easy in the future, that we'll feel in control again.
I'll name some institutions that I saw on board last time around: Nike, the MoMA, the Met, big Web2, as we call them, corporates. And they did so through NFTs and their attempt at monetizing IP and distributing through blockchain. Now, I think sometimes people feel like there was not a lot of emphasis put on that side of the Ethereum world from the EF. And I get, in conversations that I've had with your team, people also feel like, well, if we support a particular project, it might see as us pumping their bags, which is not really the purpose. How do you see that? How can NFT communities and projects engage with the EF to help not just, it's going to be hard to develop, right? You guys are the smart devs, and we're just the users, but really be conduits to propagate Ethereum and its values in the world?
I think that we are now very open for an outreach from the projects, and it's trying to be more natural and just reacting as foundation to, oh, this looks interesting. And sure, there will be always a bit more responsibility of verifying, is there something really, really bad behind the project, as we've seen, like this crypto space, right? So we know that there is lots of evil. But on the side of being afraid of not being neutral, I keep saying, instead of being neutral by not supporting anybody, you can be neutral by just being very active and supporting a lot of projects that build on Ethereum, and showing that interest and being aware that you can admit that sometimes you're mistaken, and teaching people to be cautious also with what we're saying, and saying that projects may fail, that projects are leading to some fun, but also if you treat them a bit too much as the money play, then there is a risk. So yeah, I think that's looking at the institutions that were onboarding for NFTs. Then you have this typical situation when maybe technology world doesn't understand fashion world or the sports world, or and there's some understanding from the outside, but to find real synergies, you have to really push for it. So when we think of the events of the future, DevCons, DevConnects, and the Ethereum houses like the one in SF, we start thinking how to create that cross-pollination between the industries, where you create novelty by, oh, it's not only finance on chain, it's also maybe fashion on chain, it's also maybe the storytelling on chain, or maybe AI on chain. And you find it by finding the hubs in different countries that actually exist with people with all the different talents. And there are cities around the world that are like this. There are some other cities that are very focused on a single technology and single aspect. And I think we'll put a bit more focus on the ones that try to bring people together, that can innovate and create something new. Yeah, there'll be lots of attention. I'll invite everyone to promote things, to try to convince us to have a moment of reflection of this is something new and cool.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. I love that you guys have been so open. I appreciate your team has been, really helpful in providing feedback and getting us in front of you today. What's your personal take on NFTs? Like, what's just, not pretend we're not on camera, you're talking to a random person. It's like, hey, all I know about what you do is like, there's like animal JPEGs on chain.
Yeah, no, I mean, sure, some but this is a question of aesthetics, like what you prefer. Is like almost like it would be asking people about art, and some people would like modern art, some people like more classical things. But as the whole idea, every now and then I'm finding something on the NFT side and I feel, oh, this is super cool. I want to have it. And this is this same thing as you do with every collectible, right? Like whether even you treat books like this or you treat albums, you want to express something about yourself. And then I visited many galleries around the world where I would walk in and I say, oh, there's NFT room. I think I was reading recently about, was it the museum in Toledo that had a very
Toledo,
nice...
yes. They just had their opening last weekend.
And you go to this, I think I was in Barcelona once, and there was a massive part of the Modern Art Museum there with NFTs. And then in Korea, during Korea Blockchain Week, there was a huge display of, is it Rafik Anadol, right?
Yeah, Rafik, yeah, good friend.
Exactly. So, and then you see, oh, this is fun. This is art. And artists were always thinking about, one thing was expressing yourself and showing also the craft and ability. The other thing was how you can interact with the changing world, with something novel that happens in the world. And the artist that actually interacts with an NFT shows that they understand that they have a new way of expressing themselves. And this is great when you see that it happens somewhere around Ethereum, and that actually Ethereum became the home for the most valuable projects, and that also that the Damien Hirst with the massive experience of experimenting with the art, with pop art, with new way of expression, and said, okay, great, let's do NFTs. And that story is a big story. It just attracts some more people to Ethereum, tells the story of Ethereum, shows how we create the money, the art, connect those things. I love it. And yeah, I ended up buying a few, and also at the times when they were super, super cheap, and then they came back to the same prices. So not really an investment story. It's more of a feeling of suddenly realizing that you want to spend some money on something and play with something. I had some like early CryptoKitties in my explorations of Ethereum, and that's also a funny story.
Nice, yeah. You're the little GIF, like one of us. We all round tripped so much. But if you're looking, we can definitely send you a little Meebit physical too. I plug Meebits because the Meebits Podcast. But no, that's amazing to hear that you've explored them yourself, that you've collected them, that you understand how NFTs are opening the doors to Ethereum for another different audience. That's not just the MEV researchers or the people that are just trying to find arbitrage in the centralized exchanges and Uniswap pools and so on. Because for us, that's really what we're doing here. We just really want to bring Ethereum to the world through this IP. Just have a lot of fun. For me, it's like a group of online friends that it's part of like the digital future, and all that being secured and powered by Ethereum is just really exciting because 100% uptime rate. right? It's the only network in the history of humanity that has 100% uptime rate. I think people don't get enough credit when they think EF is like, oh no, Ethereum's up 5%, EF is going to sell ETH, which is what colloquially, our side of the world tends to think of the EF, and thus does the outreach, because we definitely want to change that. Ethereum treasury companies, they're all mostly crypto native today, right? Or people who, Joe and then people in the space that come from Ethereum are like taking it to the traditional world. How are you seeing that play out over the long term? Do you see like the big banks like coming in and not just issuing their stable coins on Ethereum, but like really wanting to own part of the network?
So I think this is always a question. On one side, you want to see that adoption, and you want to have conviction that the strength of the network values will lead to the network overcoming decentralization pressures from large institutions. If we didn't believe in it, and it would be really scary to even build that network, because I have to admit, blockchain delivers tools that are potentially very risky, right? Like this inability to escape from the oversight from tracking every single transaction or tracking our identity globally, as Vitalik was suggesting recently. So it also shows us that there are some risks if stable coins are overly centralized, if regionally the blockchain starts leaning towards one direction or the other. So I think there is a massive celebration of seeing these large institutions coming on chain, because there is a strong belief that in the end, those Ethereum values are having so much support globally from so many independent people that it will always persist. The censorship resistance, the security, privacy, open source approach, and then those large institutions, they come and go. Actually, when you realize over the last 100, 200 years, when you analyze those largest of institutions, the largest of banks, like how many mergers and bankruptcies, those that we thought that wouldn't fail, they go through in every 10 or 50 years or 100 years. You have the stories on Broadway about the banks falling, and then you realize, okay, we're building something that we believe is much more long term and much more resilient. And then if we believe in it, then it's never scary to bring the institution on chain.
Nice. I like that, because long-term thinking I think is super, super important, and especially a space that sometimes tends to over-index on like short-term profits. And it's kind of like what we're talking about earlier, other L1s kind of just focusing on that quick gain, quick win, but maybe at the expense of some of the values that Ethereum has always prioritized.
And I think that quick win is a part of the game. People come and sometimes treat it as entertainment, right? They're like the gamble of trying new things, and or really not caring about the loss of something when they experiment with technology. So I think it always was part of Ethereum. The quick wins as an idea of accelerating technology so much that you only allow it to break, because you know that what stays among all of these experiments will be things that will month after month after month become much more battle tested, and say, oh, we built something, maybe sometimes accidentally, that survived 10 years. Some smart contracts that will be forever embedded. And this is something that doesn't erode easily. I think that you cannot find in traditional finance and traditional systems things that so easily survive without any risk of some influence to change the mechanisms. And here we will be able, like in 20, 50 years, to trust that those mechanisms already exist and were unchanged and not even questioned. Well, we or whatever form of agents that will be executing on chains on behalf of us.
That's amazing. Almost here at time. So I just one final question. And you have an audience of mostly NFT collectors, people that are here for the art and the culture. What's your message to them, just directly about the EF, about Ethereum, about NFTs?
Well, I would say keep running towards like some kind of third wave of NFTs. Like think about what's the next innovation in the NFT space. I was thinking that maybe this is Gen AI with NFTs, maybe something else. I think it's just around the corner, and just waking up, just innovators and experimentators, and among the NFT builders, IP builders, and feeling, wow, we can do something huge. This is the way to go.
Awesome. Well, this was an incredible time. Thank you again so much. I know you're super busy, so keep doing such a good job. We appreciate it on behalf of every Ethereum in the world. And yeah, fam, thank you so much for joining us today on the Meebits Podcast. This is Tomasz, Co-Executive Director of the Ethereum Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.